Pastor.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Once more. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal, religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. We're glad to have you with us this morning. We're a very welcoming congregation, and we appreciate your unique experiences, backgrounds, beliefs, and lifestyles. If you're a long-term member, or you've been here for a very short time, or if you're joining us today for the very first time, we are grateful and glad that you're with us. We're also very grateful to those of you who are streaming with us this morning. We welcome those. I wanted to make sure that it is my pleasure this morning to welcome our guest speaker, Jermaine Williams, the Director of Freedom Project East, and I will introduce him more later on in the service. I have no announcements this morning other than it's rather chilly, so if you want to get your coat, you're welcome to go out and get your coat. I might put my gloves back on. But now please take a few moments to greet each other and say hello to someone that you've not met before. Thank you. We'll have time for more conversation and good coffee, warm coffee, after the service this morning. We now turn from our informal greeting of one another to formally begin our service by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniquenesses. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it has been found. For the opening reflection this morning, I'm sharing the words of Jim Scott. This is from the hymn, "Let This Be a House of Peace." It's song 1054 in the turquoise hymnal, if you want to follow along. But I'm sharing verses 1 and 2. Let this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. Let this be our house, a haven for the healing, an open room for question and our inspiration. Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice where all our sacred differences here shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace.
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is number 128, "For All That Is Our Life." Please rise as you're willing and able.
We now kindle our candles of care. Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our minds and hearts, and who we want to wrap in our love and care. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others who are here or here in our hearts and minds this morning. And you're welcome to say their names out loud as you are willing. those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering elsewhere in our world at this hour, we hold in our community of compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world. And just for your information, we will have a special collection in June for Freedom Project East. Oh, I'm sorry, it's in May.
I'd like to invite all of our children forward for the Time for All Ages this morning. And being that it is the last Sunday of Women's History Month, I've also invited some famous UU women from the past. All right. So, women in the 1700s and the 1800s were supposed to stay in their place, in the home, raising all you children, not getting an education, not working, not voting, not thinking for themselves. But somehow, Unitarian and Universalist women don't always fit the mold. Let's hear from some of them.
I am Julia Ward Howe. You probably know me as the woman who wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic. But I was also an active abolitionist. My husband and I supported John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry and were strongly against slavery. I also fought for women's rights, prison reform, and education for all. You know, in my day, women couldn't go to college, and poor people got no education at all.
I'm Clara Barton. I was a nurse on the front lines of the Civil War at a time when women weren't supposed to nurse soldiers, and it was brutal. I founded the American Red Cross, and I was also a teacher and established the first public school in New Jersey. People didn't think poor children or women should go to school, but I did.
And I am Lydia Mariah Child. You know me, I think, as the author of that cute Thanksgiving song, "Oh, the River and Through the Woods." Everybody loved my children's story and my book, The Frugal Housewife. But my reading public wasn't thrilled when I joined the abolitionist cause and spoke out strongly against slavery. I also helped slaves in the Underground Railroad. Later, I founded the Massachusetts Women's Suffrage Association, advocating for the vote for women, and also worked for the cause of Native Americans having their own language and religion.
Well, this is certainly, yes, a remarkable group of women that we have visiting us this morning. So, how many of you supported the women's right to vote?
We all did.
Okay, wonderful. And then how many of you actually got to vote in your lifetimes? None of you. What a shame. Well, before you leave, I'm wondering, is there anything you'd like to say to the children this morning?
If you believe in something, like the worth of every individual, you need to act as if that is already here and work for it.
Get involved and help others.
Use your God-given hearts, talents, and minds freely and generously.
All right, thanks again for joining us this morning. Happy Women's History Month. And now please join me in singing our children out to Children's Chapel.
As we move into a time of meditation this morning, find a comfortable position. Put your feet on the floor, close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep breath in, breathe out, and reflect on these words from Andrea Lerner. Our faith is not interested in saving your soul. We're here to help you unfold the awesome soul you already have inside you. For our reading, as we prepare for today's message from Jermaine, I share these thoughts. Hopelessness is the dark suspicion that things will get worse, not better. Whenever we see the future with more clouds, more darkness, more trouble, more pain, more problems, we invite the spirit of hopelessness to invade our being and possess us. On the other hand, if we truly see a better way for the future, the sun shines and we find hope, even in the presence of trouble, pain, problems, and darkness. In the New Living Translation Bible, Hebrews 13:3 says, "Don't forget about those in prison. Suffer with them as though you were there yourself. Share the sorrow of those being mistreated, as though you feel their pain in your own bodies."
Good morning, everyone. I am not presuming when I sing this song that I understand completely or even a little bit what it would be like to be imprisoned. But the song I want to sing in honor of our guest speaker today, and all the things that he's doing that are so wonderful right now, and the courage that would take. This song is for anyone, really, that feels trapped by whatever cause or situation. It would feel to be free. Wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone must be free. I wish I could give all I could give. I wish I could live how I'm longing to live. And I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm long overdue, I'd be starting anew. Be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. 'Cause I'd soar to the sun, look down to the sea and sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free.
Thank you, Pam. Well, it's my pleasure at this time to share with you and introduce you to our speaker this morning. There is a brief video that I believe we will play here to give you some more information about Jermaine and Freedom Project East.
You don't go through incarceration and come out unscathed. With everything I've been through over the course of my lifetime, my life was never on the track that I would have liked it to be on in the first place. I spent my entire young life as a child, adolescent, being somebody else's responsibility. Now fast forward, I go into the system as a teenager, as an adolescent, and I become somebody else's responsibility. Or for any individual who's had to spend any amount of time incarcerated, being told what they can and can't do, when they can and can't eat, where they can and can't go, right? In essence, you don't even really truly have an opinion. And that may sound crazy, but it's the truth. It's the fact of the matter. Because even with you exercising your opinion, there are sometimes consequences that come with that. And at the end of the day, you're still a prisoner. I was fortunate enough to know a few people who were involved with the Freedom Project. One of those people being a very, very dear friend of mine who created space and an opportunity for me to get involved with the Freedom Project. So I volunteered with the Freedom Project initially upon release, and then shortly thereafter I ended up becoming the director of Freedom Project East. So it's important for me to do this work and be involved in this work and with this project, because I know how difficult it was for me from a psychological and emotional standpoint when I first released from confinement. And so now I think about other people who have to suffer a similar plight, and I want to do every and anything that I possibly can in order to make their transition a more humane one. For those people who are formerly incarcerated and you're out here in the community and you're trying to establish yourself, you're trying to find a way, right? Believe that you can and you will. There are resources out here available for you. Sometimes it's just difficult to access them. Understand that you have value, you have worth, right? And you have something amazing to contribute to this community out here. And we plan on bringing it here to Spokane. That I guarantee.
It's my pleasure to introduce Jermaine Williams.
I tried. For those people who were here for the first service, I mentioned how every single time that video is shown in space, in a public space, it always touches me emotionally, it always moves me, right? Because, you know, it's clearly me in the video and it's my life, it's my lived experience. But I also know everything that went on in my life that helped me get to that place and that point. So this time I was sitting there, and this time instead of watching the video with everybody else and getting all choked up, I decided I'm going to close my eyes and put my head down. So that way I can finally overcome all these emotions and physical sensations that flow through me when the video is playing. Failed miserably. The first service was the first service, and I spoke from my heart, and I'm going to do the same thing here too. I had a moment after our first service where I was talking to people, meeting people, greeting people, listening to people's stories a little bit, seeing where our lives and our paths, you know, align with one another's. And I really appreciated that, because when we're talking about humanity centering or making space for humanity, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And so I want to share something right now that I didn't share in the first sermon, the first talk. Before I was the director of Freedom Project, so just a little bit about me, very little bit, and then I'll get more into that in a moment. So I've spent more time incarcerated than I have in society. I'm a 46-year-old man now. Let's do the math. Let's make this fun and easy. I got in trouble when I was 17 years of age, so that's 0 to 17. I turned myself in 4 months after turning 18 years of age. That's 0 to 18 plus 4 months. I was sentenced to 36 years. I did 25 years in 3 months on that 36-year sentence. I was able to earn my way out of prison and come out early, right? If you call 25 years early. So we now have 18 years and 25 years, right? I released May 4th of 2020. So May 4 of 2023, I will have been out in the community for 3 years. So when you add 18 and 3, that's 21. I served 25 years in 3 months. So when I say that I've spent more time confined than I have in community, I mean that literally. That's a great segue. And anything that I say, please fact check it. I said this before. Anything I say, fact check it. Whether I'm speaking like factually, I'm speaking scientifically, biologically, if I'm just in jest, joking, whatever the case may be, please fact check what I say. So I'm going to share something now that I didn't share before. Prior to me becoming the director of Freedom Project East, and before the advent of Freedom Project East, which took place in June of 2020, within a month of me being out here in the community, I released on a Monday that morning, and the world was so much different than I remembered it. It was so much different. Sometimes when you go to sleep at night, wake up the next morning, the world is so much different than you remember it. I wouldn't venture to ask you all to try to imagine what it's like coming out of confinement after 25 years. What I will ask you all to venture is, I released that Monday, and I remember on the inside, people telling me, whatever you do, don't go to Walmart. Whatever you do, don't go to Walmart. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be too many people. It's too big. Like, the store is huge. There's going to be too much traffic. You're not going to be able to handle it. I was like, but I'm going to Walmart. I didn't go to Walmart that day. I went to Fred Meyer's. I went to Fred Meyer's down on right off of Freya and 5th. Oh my goodness. I walked into that store, and when I walked into that store, it was so much traffic going back and forth both ways. I was stuck. And my partner at that time just kept on walking. And I don't want to yell because I don't want, to alert the population to the fact that I'm terrified. I'm watching her walk up the stairs. She's looking back at me. I do my hands like this. And she smiles like, come on. And I'm like, there's too many people. So eventually she came back, she got me, and we made it through that experience. That was something. Talking about a circus. After that, we left and we went to Target up on Palouse Highway in Spokane. I'm a Spokane guy. I'm not born and raised in Spokane, but Spokane is my home. So I don't care if you're born and raised out here. If you talk to me about Spokane, you're probably not going to win. I like Spokane. I dare I say I love Spokane. This is my home. So we went to Target, and there wasn't a lot going on because this is a post-COVID world. This is a post-COVID world that I released into, which had its pros, probably more so for me than the cons that it had for many other people who was used to the world moving at the speed that it was moving, at the pace that it was moving. I didn't make it to Walmart until that weekend. Fell in love. Fell in love. It's been my place ever since. Listen, when I tell you, this is probably going to sound so funny and so corny, yet so true. There could have been a time when any one of you could have went into Walmart on Sprague and just seen a guy standing there having a conversation in the appliance aisle, like on his phone. Like, I used to have meetings there and everything. I was in love with Walmart. I still am. Like, I can just go to Walmart and just hang out and be okay. I love Walmart. But I released on Monday, and Wednesday came around, and I had heard about this thing called Zoom when I was inside. It was like the new thing, but I didn't know what Zoom really was. I had heard about Zoom because many members of my organization were already partaking in Zoom meetings, and it was the wave of the future. I hadn't heard about Microsoft Teams, but I had heard about Skype, and they was like, yeah, this is like the new Skype. So Wednesday came around, and I was with my partner. And when I was with my partner, she said, I'm getting ready to get on this Zoom call. They have this thing called Meaningful Movies. Right? They have this thing called Meaningful Movies. You want to get on there with me? And I was like, what is that? She said, it's just this thing. You don't even have to say nothing. Like, I don't even have my camera on. We just get on there like Zoom. I was like, okay, I heard about Zoom. So we're sitting there, and it's a lot of folks in there. It's a lot of folks in there. And I don't say this to be disparaging or disrespectful. I say this to be honest, just to kind of bring you into my world, right? It was spring when I released. And on that Zoom call, there were about 54, 55, 56 people, right? And in my mind, it looked like a bunch of snowflakes. That's what it looked like a bunch of snowflakes. Everybody on the call was white. Now that's not a bad thing. That just is a thing. So I'm on the Zoom call. She doesn't like to do her camera, but I was like, we on here, you might as well do the camera. So she put the camera on and everything, and the Zoom call is going. And I forget the movie that we watched because that's not what stands out to me. What stands out to me is that, or the movie we were discussing, because I missed the movie. But what stands out to me is that I'm listening to folks talk about the movie that they had watched, I think the week prior. And one of the persons who runs Meaningful Movies is in attendance right now. She's a congregant here, right? Barb Stubing. Love the sister. Appreciate the sister, right? I don't know if I've ever said that to her out loud or if I've ever said that to her on a telephone call, but I'm saying it right here, right now, today, because it's important to me that I say that, right? That's the first Zoom call I was ever on. That's the first time that I was put in space with other folks, regardless of or irrespective of my background, where I had just came from, what I had done over the course of my life. That wasn't the prerequisite for being involved in Meaningful Movie. Not at all. Not even close. And Barb created that space for me. And she's been a community partner with us ever since. I've been very intentional about that. I'm going to remain intentional about that. So I have this strong belief system that if you are not grateful to people, then you cannot be grateful to your Creator, right? And so here in front of everybody, I say, thank you, Barb, for that experience, and thank you for you. So fast forward, and an opportunity came around for us to speak. And so I started talking a little bit because what we were watching or what they were discussing had something to do with confinement. And just like the sister who just sang the selection a moment ago, you know, they were people who never been locked up and never been in handcuffs, and they were talking, and that was amazing. But I was just thinking, like, this is my life. This is my lived experience that they're talking about. Like, they're talking about what I lived. It's one thing to talk it, it's another thing to walk it. Again, that's not to be disparaging to the people who have never walked it, but it is to say that when people say nothing about us without us, it literally means nothing about us without us. I'm in no position. I'm in no position. Even standing here today, right now, right? International Women's Month, I'm in no position to say that I'm an ally to women and women's issues. Why is that? Why is that the case? Why? Because as a human being, I can say whatever I want to say. God has given me the ability long as I can open my mouth and let the words flow, right? But in the essence of what it means to be aligned with someone, I don't have the right, I don't have the privilege, I don't have the authority, and I don't have the intersection to say, you know what, I'm an ally to the women's movement, let's get it going. No. Somebody who is in that movement, somebody who has that identity, someone who has that intersection has to appoint me that. They have to invite me into that. These are the things that I'm thinking about. So I start speaking. And when I start speaking, I talk a little bit about my lived experience. And I started with, you know, hello everybody, my name is Jermaine Williams. Just released on Monday. Thank you for having me here. I did 25 years in 3 months. Got myself in some serious trouble when I was 17 years old. And I'm just talking, I'm just sharing about what they had been talking about and telling them, like, you know, for me, my lived experiences from this, that, the other, not to disrespect or disregard anybody else, but this is what I saw. This is what I walked off. This is what I went through. Something phenomenal happened that I wasn't prepared for at all. Humanity happened, and I wasn't prepared for it. Humanity showed up in the form of everybody on the, literally, every man, woman, non-binary person on that call for Meaningful Movies, and on Wednesday, let me make sure I got my dates right. Wednesday, May 6th, 2020, Everybody, and I think it's 5 p.m., everybody who was on that call, male, female, non-binary person, was in tears. I had no idea. I didn't think about it that way. I'm so used to walking in my own shoes and being on my own path and saying what I say sincerely and honestly from my gut, from my heart, from my mind, from my mouth that God gave me to you all's ears, that I don't think about the impact that it sometimes has on people. Another phenomenal thing happened, and that's that my partner at that time, she sniffled, and it kind of brought me out of a trance. I looked back, she was crying, and I was like, what's wrong with you? She was exercising humanity like everybody else. Like, people were hurting for me in a way that I had not allowed myself to hurt for myself. And because I had not allowed myself to hurt for myself, I had not yet allowed myself to heal for myself. Because they say, medically or otherwise, when you feel the pain, you know the healing is taking place. When you feel the pain, you know that you're alive, right? So that was just an interesting thing. And again, I had to thank Barb and Jen too, man. They're different types of rock stars. They're different types of rock stars. And again, this is super genuine, because anybody who was here for the first service know that I didn't say this. So this isn't contrived. This isn't something that was scripted. This is straight from the heart. Freedom Project East, our organization. The selection that Gordon read just a little bit ago, Hebrews 13:3, and be with those in prison as if you are in prison with them. For us, it's always important that me as an individual, that Aretha, our operations director in the back, that, Jamel Joe, who's not here right now, but he's our full-time care coordinator, and all of us at our organization, whether over here on the east side or on the west side, that we center the lived experience of those folks who are directly impacted by these systems of oppression. All of them. Not just confinement, not just prisons. That's a portion of it, and that's a huge portion of it. But all of these systems that have been put in place to keep us separated from one another, to keep us segregated from one another, to keep us believing or convincing ourselves that we are doing the right thing by creating and carving out our own little space so that we don't have to worry about other people coming in and taking over or influencing us or influencing our children in ways that we wouldn't want, ways that we don't want. That's not human. That's not humane. And if it's not human and it's not humane, then that means it's not humanity. It's something else. Something else. And if it's not human and it's not humane and it's not humanity, then what does that leave? It's artificial. It's inauthentic. It's inauthentic. So all the children out here this morning, and Gordon and I were just talking about that, like, it's a lot of kids in here today. It's not a bad thing, that's a great thing. It's a great thing. Indoctrination is a real thing. So what we teach our children take it to the world and they teach the world. What we influence our children with, they take into the world and they influence the world with. So a lot of times we start early, right? Please, thank you, yes sir, no ma'am, things of this nature. You're welcome, and no, I don't want that. I don't want gummy bears today. I haven't met a kid yet who doesn't want gummy bears, but I'm just saying. It's probably one out there somewhere. I'm going to come across one. It might be my son. Might be my son is due to be born August 6th. I don't want any gummy bears. Right on. But we teach our children and we indoctrinate our children at a very young age so that they can be prepared for the hurdles that they'll have to face in life and the things that life will throw at them. So how about we teach them humanity from as early on as possible, right? Because there's a fascinating thing. I'll get into science and stuff in just a moment. There's a fascinating thing about kids. Kids don't have nearly the amount of veils that we do as adults. Not even close. Not even close, right? I can speak in a dialect that's English but broken from the place that I originate from, Chicago, Illinois, or Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and people will be like, what the heck is he talking about? What is he? I've never heard that accent before. He said what? I've never heard that. Is that English he's speaking? Children who cannot talk or communicate in a way that we understand, or in a language that we understand, can come in contact with each other. Babies, you put two babies in front of each other. They touch each other. They coo with each other. They communicate in a way that we don't fully understand yet, right? But they understand each other. How is it that a baby knows that this is another baby? Right? Like all the parents in attendance. Did you tell your child, one of these days, you're going to come in contact with another baby, and I just want you to know that that's a baby when you come in contact with it? No, that's not what we do. It's not what we do. It's not what we've ever done. Not even close. But yet our child knows that that's another child when they come in contact with it. Because it's inherent. Because it's innate. It's in them already. Just as greatness and genius is already inside of us. Amazement is already inside of us. All I'm asking is that we continue to cultivate that in a way that reflects humanity. That's the only thing that I'm asking, right? So let me get into these fun facts real quick. I was at an ultrasound appointment on Monday. My partner and I. Today we're 21 weeks pregnant. 21 weeks pregnant today. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. I'll make sure I let her know that y'all are clapping it up for her since she's the carrier of this bundle of joy. We're at the ultrasound appointment on Monday, and the tech was supposed to take pictures of our child in, I think, 4D or whatever they call it, where you get a not just the black and white kind of, space odyssey picture, but you get a chance to kind of see your child. But what happened was that she said that the child needs to be on its back, and our child was on its tummy. Boy, he was on his tummy. And so she was trying to move Zari in a certain kind of way and nudge her. Well, really trying to nudge the baby, but it just wasn't happening. She was like, well, I'm pretty good at getting them to move and stuff like that, right? So eventually she had Zari lay on her right side, and she took the contraption and she put it up under her left rib cage. And she was like, he's a stubborn little fellow. He won't move. He just won't move. He won't roll over. Like, roll over in there. And then he put his hands up. I'm watching the screen. He put his hands up in front of his face and balled up his fist. And I was like, that's my boy. That's my boy, yeah, right. So I'm telling the lady how, I said, what's amazing to me is, because she was showing us his brain and everything, and she was naming off these pieces. And so I was telling her, I said, it's amazing to me. Now, she didn't know that I'm Jermaine Williams, as my mom named me, director of Freedom Project East. She didn't know that I'm in the abolition business. She didn't know that my life's work, my life's mission, value, and purpose and vision is to eradicate these systems of oppression. All she knows is that I'm the partner of this pregnant lady laying up on this table. So I said to her, there's an amazing thing about the brain, and it's the fact that the first piece of the brain to develop is the base of it, right? The animal brain, or the base brain as they call it. Where fight, flight, freeze comes from. I'm hungry. I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I'm randy, right? Whatever the case may be, I have a need, a basic human need that needs to get met. That's the first thing that develops. But the last portion of the brain that develops is the prefrontal cortex, right? The forelock, as many religious sects call it. The place where our cognition comes from, right? Full thoughts, weighing out consequence or consequences, weighing out options, reasoning, rationale, If I say this, somebody else is probably going to say this. If I do this, somebody else is probably going to do that. So I'm telling her about this as what she's a medical professional. Of course she knows it. I'm just talking because I'm just a father-to-be. I'm an expected father. I'm excited. And she's talking about his brain. And I was also saying how, what's also amazing is that while the base, our animal brain is the first part to develop, and our forelock or our prefrontal cortex is the last piece to develop, our cognition comes from the front, and anytime we find ourselves inebriated, shuts it down. Anytime we find ourselves afraid, traumatized, it shuts it down. And we automatically go back to the first part of our brain that was created. The base, the animal, fight, flight, freeze, the easiest way to simplify it, right? I said, so it's amazing to me that the brain is not fully developed in male, female, and non-binary folks until well into our mid-20s, 25 at the earliest, late 20s, right, in other instances. And the lady is sitting there, medical professional, never gone to school for medicine, never gone to school for law, never gone to school for biology. I didn't even pay attention to biology when I was a kid in school. But the lady is sitting there with her mouth agape. And when I finished talking, and we're just having a conversation. I'm not here to educate. We're just having a conversation. I'm a father-to-be. I'm excited. I'm watching my son's brain on the screen. It's my boy. Right? And so the lady said, the first words out of her mouth was, like she's not even doing the ultrasound anymore. She's just holding the thing in her hand. And she said, wow, I'm amazed and impressed that you even know that. Most people don't even know that. So I'm just a fan of information. That's it. That's it. Being director of Freedom Project, these is not going to get me a cheaper hospital bill, so why leverage that, right? For what? That's a waste of time. I'm pretty intentional about the way what I say and how I move, right? So, understanding that Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative is someone who is famous for Just Mercy, the movie and the book. Anybody who's seen the movie knows that Michael B. Jordan played his character in the movie, but more so than just that, the Equal Justice Initiative is responsible for doing the research that I was just talking about a moment ago. So when Brian Stevenson first started, fresh out of law school, he was working in a prison, I believe that's in Georgia, with folks who had been sentenced to death. They were on death row, and I believe it's in Georgia. I'm almost sure about that, but please somebody fact check that just to make sure. He's from Washington, D.C., if I'm right, but then set up his practice in Alabama, but I'm almost positive it was in Georgia. Anyway, so what happened was that he was working with all of these people on death row, and what he noticed is that it just so happened that the vast majority of the people on death row happened to be black people. They happened to be people of color. So as he dug a little bit deeper, he started to realize almost all, if not all of these people had some form of childhood trauma they had experienced over the course of their lifetime. And then he started to, and so now the wonderment took him in a different direction, and he started to work with kids, right? And so something about Florida especially, I don't know what it is about the Sunshine State or the other southern states that run a little west of it. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm just, I'm grateful to be a citizen here in the Northwest. But there were a plethora of children who had been thrown into the system, given life without the possibility of parole or these absorbent amount of time, thrown into adult facilities, forced to make adult choices, forced to survive. We can't even call that living. We don't treat children like adults when you exercise humanity, and you don't treat adults like children when you exercise respect and consideration or tolerance, right? So he realized that there was something going on with these children. He didn't know exactly what it was. So as he studied these children more and what was going on in their background, had a chance to talk to their families and teachers from the school if they had attended school, and other things going on in the neighborhood and other stuff going on in the home, regardless of, irrespective of who they grew up with, he realized that all of these children had been traumatized. So this research came about. The United States Supreme Court determined that it is inhumane and unconstitutional. Inhumane and unconstitutional to give a child life without the possibility of parole, without assessing what were the circumstances surrounding that child's situation. And yet we had so many states doing it. We had so many communities doing it. We had so many societies doing it. So what happened was that the United States Supreme Court made that decision, and it seemed like a phenomenal one at the time, but there was a caveat, and that caveat was that they allowed every single state within the jurisdiction of the United States to determine what the process was going to be, to determine whether or not that child should or should not spend the rest of its natural life in confinement. So Washington State came up with its process. Many of us benefited from that process, went through that process, did the things that we needed to do in order to find ourselves free out here in the community. Part of the reason that I do the work that I do, or show up the way that I do, or in some instances a lot of my people will say, you know, bro, you show up and you show out, is that I know that there are people who are still confined, who are much more amazing than me, who are much more articulate than me, who are much more gifted and skilled than me, who are more spiritual than me, who either one have not been given the opportunity to show just what they can do or how much they can do were they in my shoes or in this position that I'm in, but two, because they weren't under the age of 18 when they got in trouble. So even though science and research and biology say that you're not fully developed until you're 25 years of age at least, there are powers that be, agencies, entities, corporations that exist that say, you're developed enough for us to throw you away. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like when you're a kid. Even when you make what you think are adult choices or adult decisions and you end up going into that system, or any system for that matter. You have people who went into the foster care system, and I'm pretty sure there are people in here right now who will bear witness if I ask you to raise your hand. I'm not going to, but I'm speaking to your soul right now. If you've been in the foster care system, I'm pretty sure there are people who went through things when they were in one place, or in one space, or with one foster parent that may have happened when they were 6, or 7, or 11, or 12, or 15, or 16, that they still have not fully recovered from right now, today, in this moment, sitting in this room. I'm positive I would stake my life on it if I was a gambling man. Right? That's being out here in society. That's having access to the things that we need to heal and help us to be better people. So when they put us in this system where we don't have the best medical care, where we don't have teachers who are afforded the luxury to be able to actually cater to our learning style, because there are too many people in there for them to talk to individually. Let me share something with you that some of you may know and some of you may not have ever known. If a staff person on the inside ever calls you by your first name, your God-given name, the one that you were named, the one that's on your birth certificate, they will throw you in segregation. It will throw you in segregation and put you under administrative segregation. Because a line has been crossed, a boundary has been crossed. You only get addressed by your last name. And you only get addressed by your last name and the last 3 digits of whatever your Department of Correction number is, right? I'm not here to blast the Department of Correction. That's not my focus. I'm here to shine a light on what humanity looks like, and that's not it. My mother named me Jermaine. I don't remember ever growing up in my house or in my neighborhood, in any of my relatives' houses, in any of my friends' houses, and being called or addressed by my last name. I don't remember that. I don't remember it. My last name is my last name, and I'm proud of it, but I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. Right? That happens when we enter into certain systems. Military. That's Buckley over there. It's Williams over there. It's Will. I like that guy. He's all right. Right? That's what happens when we end up on the police force. No knock to police. They're doing their job. I respect them and that for what it is that they have to do. Even if I don't always agree with the strategy or the tactics that are employed. But I appreciate what it is that they're trying to do. Right? When we end up in the juvenile justice system, if we can call it that, when you end up in jail or confined to prison cells, then suddenly you're no longer Jermaine. You're no longer Aretha. You're no longer Daniel. You're no longer Norma. You're no longer Gordon. Right? Barb. You're not. And if somebody calls you by that, they've done something wrong and they run the risk of losing their job. You've done something wrong because you've manipulated them into calling you that, and you're off in segregation, and now you have a stain on your record that follows you for the rest of your days while you're inside the system. There's nothing humane about that. But there is something humane about each and every one of us. Each and every one of us out here. There's something humane about us. It's what helps us sit here right now and tolerate me speaking. It's something that helps us sit here right now and nod our head in agreement when something is said that we identify with. It's something that helps us sit here right now and wipe tears off of our cheeks because it's something that's being said that moves us. It's not me. I'm just a vessel. That's all I am is a vessel. I'm a humble servant, striving to be more and more humble and exercise more and more humility every day. That's why I started with what I started with when I thanked Barb and Meaningful Movie. And Jen, too, who's not in attendance right now, but she's a rock star, too. So what I ask in closing is to remember that our liberation is tied together. I can't do it without you. You can't do it without me. I said earlier, and I meant it. People laughed. They thought it was funny. Probably is when I give myself a chance to think about it, but I don't say it to be funny. I say it because I'm serious. Too serious sometimes. I need to work on my features, softening up my features and smile more and stuff. But can't unsee what I've seen. You can't undo what I've done. And so Walmart wouldn't be Walmart without the consumers. Walmart wouldn't be Walmart without the consumers. I just want you to think about that. Walmart was one of the only businesses back in 2008, 2009, and 2010 when our country was in a recession that suffered no loss. The banks did. The automotive industry did. Fact check what I said. The car industry did. The music business did. But Walmart was booming. Why? Because of us. Everybody who shops there. Walmart would not be Walmart without the consumers. Amazon would not be Amazon without the consumers. Starbucks wouldn't be Starbucks without the consumers. What does that mean? That means that it takes all of us to achieve success. The ultimate success that we can have is humanity and exercising some form of humaneness. So be with those in prison as if you are in prison with them, as if you are experiencing the same bondage and suffering that they are. Nothing about us without us. And remember, nobody has the right to align themselves with you and call themselves an ally unless they've been invited into that cause, unless they share that intersection. They just don't have the right. I don't care where our heart is. The reality is that I don't have that right. It's not my organs that they're trying to mess with. This isn't about being political. This is about being open and honest. If my partner didn't want to keep the child that we have in her tummy, we would have a discussion about that. I might not even like the decision, but that's her body. Who the hell am I to tell her what she can and can't do with her body? My body doesn't change. Her body does after she has that baby. Hers, not mine. And again, this isn't about politics, and this isn't about law. This is about humanity. In the same way that she will never know what it means to be a black-bodied male who's been incarcerated. She can't. No matter how much she loves me, how much she imagines, how much she tries to fathom, she can't. And she can love me to the point of laying her life down for me. But she still doesn't have the right to appoint herself as an ally to our issues. To someone who's a part of that has appointed her to that. That's what humanity looks like. It takes all of us, right? It takes all of us. So, Assata Shakur. Got to give y'all Assata Shakur. It's International Women's Month. Assata Shakur shared this. I'm going to quote Assata Shakur, quote, "If there's anything that I know at all, it's that a wall is just a wall and nothing more at all. It can be torn down." End quote. One more time. Quote, "If there is anything that I know at all, it's that a wall is just a wall and nothing more at all. It can be torn down." End quote. Assata Shakur. Got one more for y'all, real quick and real short before I get out of here. Quote, "That's how change occurs. One determined woman at a time." End quote. One more time. Quote, "That's how change occurs. One determined woman at a time." End quote. 2008, DNC, Democratic National Convention, Michelle Obama. That's how change occurs. That's how change occurs. One determined woman at a time. Freedom Project East started with a dream. It was mine. And then an idea. That was my executive director's. And then we tried to figure out how it was that we can get that thing to materialize into real life. And so I invited Aretha to a meeting. And I told her about it. It's my sister, rocking and rolling. So I invited her to a meeting and I told her about it. And she was like, "How you gonna pull that off? How you gonna do that, right? You talk a good game, but Spokane's not going for that. I'm telling you, I've been out here." And I said, "Listen, sis, we're gonna be successful. We're gonna do it. And we're not gonna do it in spite of the things that we've been through. We're gonna do it because of the things that we've been through." Right? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us at that meeting on that day. Yeah, 5 of us at that meeting on that day. 2 of us are still rocking and rolling. 2 of us are still moving forward. 2 of us from that meeting that day. I want to thank you all for making time and space for me to share, for me to converse, for me to communicate. Again, remember those who are confined as if you are confined with those. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, we are a human ship and our liberation is tied together. So I can't do it without you, and you can't do it without me. Proof? Walmart. Starbucks. Amazon. Amazon has one in the valley and they're expanding the one that they have in Airway Heights, and then they're in talks to build another one, right? We should be getting some kickbacks because almost everybody in here, I'm certain, has an Amazon account. I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm saying this to be so sincere. I thank y'all for your time. And if you want to know about Freedom Project, more about Freedom Project East, you can talk to myself, you can talk to Gordon, you can talk to any of your congregants, and also we'll have information on how you can get in touch with us. So please continue to be your amazing selves and do the amazing work that you already do. Remember, our liberation is tied together. Try not to ever forget that. Try to indoctrinate your kids in such a way that they see humanity, they see humans for who they are as human beings, and they exercise the necessary humanity in order for us to be as free as the bird she was singing about in that song. No question. Thank you all.
So while you're standing, let's sing that final hymn. It's number 323, Break Not the Circle. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it brighter still, till it includes embraces of the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but where that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
As we close today, I'm going to share the words from Leon Castell Anderson in the book For the Love of Community. And shall we waste it then, this present day, a gift that's wrapped in clouds and tied with strings of sun and handed to us free? Let's listen to its winds insist, throw wide your arms and savor it. Let's let its presence wind bright scarves of thought about our minds. And then let's share this present day, a loaves and fishes day, sharing which makes the gift expand to fill the heart with hope. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.